Esto es amor de verdad, nadie lo puede dudar.
Step up to craft beer. Taino Light Lager has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean-style flavor. Boricua Craft Ale, full-bodied flavor for the true beer drinker. Stop drinking beer water. Taino Craft Light Lager and Boricua Strong Craft Ale. Feel the rhythm and come up to craft beer.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her, and her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you.
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.
Welcome to Hispanic Speak Out TV. I am your host today, Diana Joseph, and we would like to welcome today Timothy Fraser. And Timothy Fraser is the elections coordinator for the Orange County Supervisor of Elections. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you, Diane. I'm so happy to be here and speak about elections.
Yes, obviously it's a very important topic at this time in our state, and I thought it was important to have you here as a guest because obviously there are a lot of issues that are being raised, a lot of concerns that are being raised, and I think our community needs to understand that it is very important for us to get out and vote. That is the way that we are going to be able to let the offices know that, you know, we want change or we have concerns. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. Voting is a right expressed by the Constitution, and it's important that people get out there and let their voice be known. I hear many people saying, well, my vote does not count. You'd be surprised how many elections are won by just 1, 2, 3, or 10 votes.
Absolutely.
Every vote does count in any election, so it's important that you get out there no matter what and vote.
Yes, I agree 100%. The other thing that I think our community probably is a little intimidated by the process because, you know, when you're listening to local and state news and, you know, sometimes you hear words that you don't hear in your everyday, you know, life, and, you know, sometimes they're intimidated about the process. So what I wanted to do with you today is ask you a few questions so we can kind of go back to basics so they can understand it's a very easy process and there are so many options in order to get your vote out. And not interfering with your everyday life or your work schedule. But the important thing is that, you know, instead of, you know, expressing yourself on social media and different outlets, why don't we express ourselves through the voting process?
Absolutely, and it's really an easy process, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on today. It's a very painless, seamless, quick process, and everyone should actually do it. It really does not take a long time, and we'll talk about early voting centers. It's convenient for everybody, so there's really no excuse, Diana, not to get out there and vote.
I agree. I agree. So the first question I wanted to ask you today, Timothy, is can you break down for our audience the offices that are being voted on this year and this coming August, actually?
Okay. This coming August, we have a primary election coming up, and we have quite a few offices that are actually going to be up. We have a U.S. Senate, State Governor, Attorney General, Chief Financial Officer, Commissioner of Agriculture. We have several U.S. House of Representative districts, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we have a state representative districts 30, 31, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. Now, one of the good things about this, even though Florida is a closed primary, and we'll talk about that a little later, there is going to be something for everybody to vote on in this election because we have some nonpartisan offices. And this is why it's so important for everyone to get out there and vote. We're going to be electing a county mayor in this particular election. County Commission District 2, 3, 4, and 6. County School Board Chair, County School Board members, District 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7, and county judges. So it's important that everybody come out and vote, because everybody, even though this is a closed primary, everybody will have something to vote on. There's also a school board ad valorem tax question on everyone's ballot, and that's very important.
Okay. Now, I think one of the things that we find happening each election year is that, of course, when there's a presidential election, everyone understands, or maybe not understand, but knows I need to vote. And they want to run to the polls, and the polls are just packed with people during a presidential election. However, when it comes to our local election, I want you to talk about the importance of and the significance of us getting out there and voting during our local elections.
Absolutely, Diana. That is one of the most important things. Let me tell you a story. I had a neighbor who, lived next door to each other, and we're talking. He knows I work for elections, and he's like, well, I don't vote in those elections. I'm like, oh my goodness, why don't you vote? Well, I only vote in presidentials. So I had to sit and explain to him. I'm like, you have a little girl, cute little girl he has. I'm like, she's getting ready to go to school. Aren't you concerned about the schools? He's like, yes, very much so, because me and my wife are actually looking at different neighborhoods to find out what school is we would want her to go to when we move. I'm like, well, guess when school boards are chosen? Not in the presidential election, in local elections. I'm like, local elections are very important. You have school boards, you have county commissioners, you have, how about your roads? How about your schools? How about housing? How about improvements? All of that is decided on a local and state level. So it's very important for people to vote in the local and state elections. Presidentials are important too, yes, but local and state elections, that's what governs our everyday lives, Diana.
Yeah. So again, could you tell our audience the date of this coming election?
Yes, it's August 28th, 2018.
So that's right around the corner.
That's right around the corner.
28 days from today.
Yes.
And again, I want to reiterate to our audience the offices, again, that are going to be on the ballot for you to vote on. Again, it's your U.S. Senate, your state governor, the Attorney General, Chief Financial Officer, Commissioner of Agriculture, the U.S. House of Representatives, and there are certain districts and state representative districts that are going to be voted upon. And then for local, our county mayor, our county commissioner, county board chair, county school board members, and our county judges. So again, reiterating what you had said, Timothy, especially when it comes to county, if there are things that you are concerned about, things that you are not happy with, then social media is a great way, but why don't we instead express ourselves through the voting process?
Absolutely. That's the most important things. Again, local issues are what drives your everyday life for us here in Central Florida. So we want to make sure that we are out there voting for the local issues. You can't sit back and say, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, if you haven't got out there and let your voice be heard.
Yes.
This is a time that every U.S. registered voter in Orange County can let their voice be heard. As I said earlier, Diana, every vote does count. Some people will say, well, my vote doesn't matter, I'm only one person. You would be surprised the races that are won by a very narrow margin, 10, 15, 20, maybe even one vote I've heard of elections being decided by one vote. It's very important for everyone to get out there and vote.
Yes. And can you tell our audience the website and phone number in case they have further questions after this segment, they need more clarification. Again, understanding it is a very simple process. Could you let them know that information?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I know a lot of our members don't have computers, especially a lot of our elder members might not have a computer or want to go on the computer. So we have a phone number for them to call. So they can give us a call at 407-836-2070. Again, that number is 407-836-2070. That's the phone number to give us a call. We actually have a phone bank there at the elections office to take people's calls. So you're not going to be standing there waiting online for 5 or 10 minutes to try to someone answer your call. We have temporary staff that we hire there to answer a call, so please give us a call.
Wonderful.
Also, there is a website, Orange County Votes. Very easy to remember. OrangeCountyVotes.com. There you can do many different things. You can register to vote there. As long as it's 29 days prior to an election, you can register. You can update your voter registration. Very important. If you've moved, call us, go online, let us update your information on there. You can look up your polling place. For this year of 2018, we've had 20 polling places that we've had to find new places for. So your polling location may have changed. Now, we have sent notification out to voters that your polling place has changed, but it's also good to call us or go on the website. Let me verify where my polling place is to vote for on election day.
Right, right. Well, we don't have, unfortunately, and this is such an important topic. I wish we had a lot more time to get into detail, but there is a couple of questions that I want to try and squeeze in before we have to close this segment. Okay. And let's talk about early voting, because sometimes, you know, on voting day, the actual day that we, you know, can go out and vote, we drive by, we see these long lines, you know, we're looking at, you know, having to pick up the kids, we're looking at having to get to work, and, you know, it's kind of a discouragement.
Yes.
So there are options, and I really want you to talk about the early voting, how that works, and how they can take an advantage of it as soon as possible so they're not caught up in those long lines.
Early voting is an excellent way to vote. If you go to this OrangeCountyVotes.com, you'll be able to get a schedule of the early voting sites. There are 15 early voting centers, and they're strategically placed all within Orange County to make it easy. So you could be driving to work, you could be driving to the mall, or driving to the grocery store and see an early voting center, and you can go in there and vote as long as it's during early voting, 10 to 6. During the early voting time frame, you don't have to vote in your home precinct. You can go to any early voting center and actually go and vote. Okay,
so what you were saying then is that I'm driving, you know, down the road to, you know, to work and so on, and I see a sign that says early voting.
Right.
I can go there. You know, it doesn't have to be within my county. Well, it has to be within your county, but it doesn't have to be within my area or within my neighborhood.
Correct.
I have the opportunity just to step in and cast my vote.
Absolutely. Early voting starts on August 17th and goes to August 26th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Any center you happen to drive by, we have them very well marked. We have a lot of libraries. I'll just give you a couple of them. We have the Alafayette Library. I know that's out here on the east side. We have the Apopka Community Center on the other end of Orange County. Chickasaw Library, that's out on the east side. Edgewater Library. Also, the Supervisor of Elections Office at 119 Cayley Street is also an early voting site. And there are 15 sites. So if you go to that Orange County Votes, you'll be able to get a listing of all of the early voting sites. And as long as you vote anywhere between August 17th and August 28th, between the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can pull into any one of those centers and vote, get in, get out, and get a great I voted sticker.
Oh, wonderful. So there is absolutely no excuse during this election period not to vote.
There's no excuse, Diana. There is no excuse. All you need to vote is a photo and a signature ID, Florida State ID, and there's several different photo IDs that we can accept. It doesn't take long. We're also going to be mailing out sample ballots to the people who haven't requested to vote by mail ballot, so you can actually study the ballots online at home in your leisure
before you get
to the poll.
Okay.
And we encourage people, bring your sample ballot with you that you've already pre-marked at home. You can take it with you into the booth and just transfer the marks to the actual ballot. You don't have to sit there and read everything because you've already done your homework at home, and you're just transferring your votes onto the real ballot. Put it in that tabulator, get your I voted sticker, and you're on your way.
Wow. So again, just to recap on that, you can actually we'll get a sample ballot. We can go ahead and do our research, what candidates we want to vote, what issues that they, you know, are strong on. Complete that sample ballot and actually take it with us to the location, and then go ahead and copy it so you don't have to work on memory.
Absolutely.
I mean, it can't get any easier than that.
It can't get any easier than that, Dan. We try to make it very easy for that. Now, if you requested a vote by mail ballot, of course you're not going to get a sample ballot. But for those who have not requested a vote by mail, you will get that sample ballot, and I encourage you to do that.
Wonderful.
Do your homework at home and bring it with you.
Well, I appreciate the time that you took today, Timothy, to spend with us. And we're definitely going to have you on again before the November election. And I want to thank our audience for spending time with us today. And please stay tuned for our next segment.
Esto es amor de verdad, nadie lo puede dudar.
Step up to craft beer. Taino Light Lager has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean-style flavor. Boricua Craft Ale, full-bodied flavor for the true beer drinker. Stop drinking beer water.
Mundo gira pegado a ti.
Taino Craft Light Lager and Boricua Strong Craft Ale. Feel the rhythm and come up to craft beer.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her, and her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you.
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.
Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Hispanic Speak Out. I am your host, Sandra Rivera, and today joining me, you will be hearing from one of Orange County's candidates for judicial election, Laura Shaffer. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Shaffer, you obviously are a practicing attorney in Central Florida, and can you tell me, before we get into that, can you tell me specifically what position are you running for?
I'm running for Circuit Court Judge in the 9th Judicial Circuit, which covers all of Orange and Osceola counties.
Okay, and is that's a seat that was vacated recently or will be vacated by Sally Cast?
Yes, it's an open seat. There is not an incumbent sitting in that position right now.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your work history, what your qualifications for this position?
I've been an attorney for 20 years. I started out at the state attorney's office under Lawson Lamar. From there, I went to the Department of Children and Families, and I rose to the position of supervising attorney. And 10 years ago, I started my own private practice. So I've had 20 years experience, and I'm currently board certified in juvenile law.
Okay, and can you explain what board certification means?
Board certification means you are recognized by the Florida Bar as an expert in that field. There are only 95 attorneys in the entire state of Florida who are board certified in juvenile, and none of them are on the bench. So I'm trying to be the first board certified juvenile law judge in the state of Florida.
Okay.
In order to become board certified, it's an extremely rigorous process, so anybody who has undertaken that knows how difficult it is. Not only do you have to take an extremely rigorous exam, you also have to be vetted by your peers, vetted by your peer review, and submit applications in regards to all of your trials and how much participation you did in them, and the board will then seek out those people to see how you did.
So it's not just a matter of paying a fee, filling out an application, and getting that title.
It is by far the most difficult thing I have ever done as an attorney.
Okay. And why is being board certified specifically in juvenile law important or essential to serving on the circuit bench?
Well, currently right now there are no board certified judges on the bench. The victims that I represent are, for example, victims of human trafficking, children with developmental disabilities, and children with who are in residential treatment programs and foster care. And I believe that representation is needed on the bench. It's an extremely important issue, especially here in Florida with all the issues of human trafficking that we have here.
Mm-hmm. And as a circuit level judge, as opposed to a county level judge, will you be hearing cases from in the juvenile division?
Well, what happens is you rotate, so they can put you on the bench in family or criminal or civil or juvenile. I have experiences in criminal law, experience in domestic relations. I do juvenile dependency and juvenile delinquency. So I have experience in these areas. And so if I'm rotated, I will be able to be familiar with those areas.
Okay. And you said you were in private practice for about 10 years?
Yes, I've had my own law firm for the past 10 years. Before that, I was with the State Attorney's Office and the Department of Children and Families.
Okay. And obviously, when we're talking about campaigns and elections, there's a lot of information out there about the candidates. Can you tell us a little bit something about yourself personally that the voters or the potential voters can identify with, or why you would be a good candidate for this position?
Well, a little bit about my family history. I was raised in a military family. My father is a retired Navy captain. My husband was 82nd Airborne in the Army, and after that he became a law enforcement officer and has been serving as a law enforcement officer for almost 30 years. I'm the mother of 2 children. I'm the mother of biracial children. So I believe that diversity is important to have on the bench. And I have been in private practice for 10 years, which I think is extremely important because as a business owner, I understand the needs of the business community. And so I've had both the government experience and the private experience.
Okay. And you mentioned that you felt that having biracial children was important or gave you a deeper understanding of that. Can you explain that a little bit more, why you feel that that would be important in your position?
Because a lot of clients that I have in my private practice, they come from all nationalities. And same is true whenever they appear in front of the bench. And I know a lot of the constituents that I've been talking to during my campaign are very concerned about that. They want to make sure that people are seen as individuals and not as a group. And I absolutely do that. Not only are my children biracial, their godmother is Hispanic, she's Cuban. So I believe that I see people as individuals, and I think that's extremely important in order to have a fair and just legal system.
And how do you intend to make the bench, so to speak, more approachable? I know that a lot of people get intimidated by even walking through the courthouse doors. What do you plan to do in order to give the community the feel that the courtroom or the courthouse is a place for them to air out grievances without feeling that fear that people will have when they walk in?
I think judicial temperament is the most important thing. As a judge, I think most people, this is the most important day of their lives. They will talk about their case for the next 20 years. They're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their relatives, they're going to tell everyone. In fact, clients that I've had who I represented years and years ago, and I run into them, they will tell me a joke that the judge made on the bench, or they will tell me a remark that another attorney had made on the bench. That day is so important to them. They want to know that they've been heard, and they want to know that win or lose, their case was considered to the fullest. So I think that is extremely important, to have that temperament on the bench, whereas everyone has the opportunity to be heard, and the decision is ruled upon and explained in such a way that people understand what's going on.
And for those that don't know, I mean, there's been quite a few news stories about the budget cuts and the shortcomings of the Ninth Judicial Circuit and their inability to, well, not inability, but the fact that they have been denied certain funding by the legislature, which has created quite an extensive workload for the existing judges. Do you feel that you're up to the task of taking on such a large caseload and a large burden for the citizens?
Absolutely. Not only did I have a large caseload at the State Attorney's Office in the Department of Children and Families, because when you are working for the state, the cases just keep on coming. So not only was I able to manage those, I rose to the level of supervising attorney. In addition, in my areas of private practice, not only do I manage caseloads in domestic relations, criminal, and juvenile, a lot of my juvenile clients not necessarily are even here, are even local. So I have to make sure that I provide great representation to them, even if they are in St. Augustine or Miami or Clearwater or things of that nature. So I am used to juggling a very hectic caseload, and I'm used to making sure that every client knows exactly what's going on and is able to understand the justice system and what's the next step.
Great. And with any campaign, there comes a lot of support from just citizens, people in leadership positions. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the endorsements that you may have received in your campaign?
I've been endorsed by Senator Torres, so I'm very proud of that. I've also been endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association, and on my website are lists of very prominent attorneys in town, as well as average citizens, business owners, members of the community. So I'm very proud of everyone who has endorsed me.
And why is it important for for the voters to see who your endorsements are? Why are endorsements important?
I think endorsements are important so that the average voter can see that perhaps the person who has endorsed them has thoroughly investigated who this person is, and they may know the person who's endorsing, and they may say, well, I know this person and I trust this person's judgment, so that's a possibility.
Sure. And are you currently running, do you have opponents?
Yes, I have 2 opponents in my race. It's a 3-person race. My current opponents are Lorraine DeYoung and Dean Mosley. Okay.
And what can you tell me that sets you apart from your 2 opponents? I understand that, I'm sure that there's mutual respect among between all of you, but what can you tell me as to why a voter might want to see you on the bench over your opponents?
Well, first of all, my record is unblemished. I've been practicing for 20 years, and I've never had any issues or grievances, things of that nature, as well as I'm board certified. And when you are board certified, that is an extremely high level of diligence. So I believe that it is important for people to have a judge on the bench who is an expert in at least one area of the law.
Okay. And can you tell me why now? Why did you decide now to hang up your hat as a practicing attorney and pursue the bench?
I think that I decided to go forward now because of the kids that I represent. I think that I can do a lot more good on the bench than representing them individually. I can only do so much as one person. I can only do so much as one person with one caseload and represent them fully and completely. To do whole child representation takes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. But to be on the bench, there is a lot more that can be done, and I believe that I can fulfill that.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that the Ninth Judicial Circuit faces in terms of justice or access to justice?
I think the biggest thing they face right now is having enough time and opportunity to get in front of the bench. I know in my own case law, in my own cases, you can try to set a hearing and it might be a while before you get that hearing. So I think a huge obstacle would be to have cases heard as expeditious and fast as possible, but then you have to weigh that also with making sure that you're providing fair amount of time for everyone to proceed with their case. So it really is a very important balancing act.
Okay. And recently there was an announcement that the business court was going to be closed as a result of the lack of funding that was provided or that was not given by the legislature. What is your, if you can, what is your opinion on that, and how do you think that you can help in terms of the cases that have now fallen from the business court division onto the regular circuit bench?
I can't answer any political questions, but I can tell you what has happened. And what has happened is because the business court has been shut down, and those cases have been distributed amongst the other circuit court attorneys. Circuit court judges. And circuit court judges are used to handling many different areas of practice because they do rotate. So at some point they're going to be in civil, at some point they're going to be in criminal, at some point they're going to be in family. So this disperses it out throughout the other judges. Whether or not we always won't have a business court, only the future will hold. Even though we didn't get the judges this time, we might get it at some time in the future, and who knows, business court might be back.
Right. Okay. So in the little bit of time that we have left, is there anything that you want the viewers to know when they come election day? And can you remind them when the primary elections will be?
Yes, the election is August the 28th, so people can vote absentee ballot, they can vote early voting. In order to have the election finish on August 28th, a candidate must have, in a three-person race, 50 plus 1. Otherwise, it goes to the runoff in November. Okay. And where can they go to find more information about you? I have a website, which is Shaffer for Judge, and also I have a Facebook as well.
Okay.
So people can look on the website or the Facebook and see where I'm going, what I'm doing. They can see the straw polls. They can see what's going on in my campaign.
All right, and so everybody's clear. How do you spell that, Shaffer, so that they can find you?
Yes, Shaffer, Shaffer.
Okay.
Everyone wants to put a C in it, but there's not a C in it. It's
Okay.
just Shaffer.
All right.
It's Laura.
Okay.
Or Laura.
Easy enough. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Best
you.
of luck in August. I'm sure you are looking forward to the end of some campaigning and some family time again.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for another episode of Hispanic Speak Out. I'm your host, Sandra Rivera. We will see you next week.
Esto es amor de verdad, nadie lo puede dudar.
Step up to craft beer. Taino Light Lager has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean-style flavor. Boricua Craft Ale, full-bodied flavor for the true beer drinker. Stop drinking beer water.
Mundo gira pegado a ti.
Taino Craft Light Lager and Boricua Strong Craft Ale. Feel the rhythm and come up to craft beer.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her, and her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.